King K,
Good.
All
right.
Soccer field.
They have people in the
Maintenance so that.
We're so sorry, we're having technical difficulties.
Erosion maintenance.
Let everybody in.
So that the soccer field's all nice, and then the Nordic Sea is getting a new building.
At least.
There, they're gonna be widening the air,
You're out to pay the bill.
I have the bill to take this one.
Substation, substation upgrade on the way to the airport. The airport is moving right now.
Sorry, it was that.
Yeah.
I'm sure to finish up with the names.
Did you?
We're
good.
Yeah.
You did God.
And then I
Okay.
Now I'm not touching anything.
A lot of summer. The big thing Fine. Traffic calming.
Did you?
Traffic calming problems are.
I didn't.
Projects are one of these.
All right, 7 o'clock. Nice. All
Sorry.
right.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna call this meeting back to order. And I think now, just to reorient everyone, we are in the second part of our meeting, and it is the FCC Community Council Collaboration Meeting. And so this is our opportunity to be thinking more directly about the community councils and our role as delegates, and less about the business of the 501c3. And I think the first thing that we kind of want to kick off this is a conversation about, this provides us with an opportunity for ad hoc committees. So I think, we just talked about committees previously in the first half of this meeting, and that was, business committees for the very specific sort of 501c3 functions. But now this is the opportunity, if folks are excited about a protected bike lane in your community, or any other kind of trails, parks, anything like that, this is an opportunity for folks to come together and establish ad hoc committees that could really sort of use the voices and the people of community councils to move forward ideas. And so I think we're just pushing this out there. We're letting folks begin to think about this. And this is, I think, one thing we recognize is this is an opportunity and a way for our organization to, begin to flex its muscles and really show up in spaces and sort of share the community that we want to live in. And the great thing about this is because we have a fantastic crew here, they're able to provide support, scheduling meetings and assisting with all that. And so if you have something that you're excited about and you want to partner with some other delegates, connect with other members of our community from across the city to move stuff forward, this is a great opportunity. And once we begin to establish these ad hoc committees, we'll communicate broadly and invite other folks to join and become part of that. And then we'll have the opportunity to bring action and resolution back to this body and back to all of the councils. And so I think this is just really recognizing this opportunity to really lean into who we are as the community, the Federation of Community Councils and the delegates, and find really meaningful ways to move our community forward.
Yep. Basically, if calling these ad hocs allows me to then help facilitate it. So if your council is I had a council be we really want to talk about public safety with other councils. How do we get this going? This is that way you reach out to myself and Amanda, or whoever our future chair is, and that gets called, and then I can, reach out to all the councils, let them know that this is here, see if they want to send a delegate, and then that communication can get started. So that's kind of it.
Any questions or concerns, thoughts, feelings, emotions? Kathy wants to lead one.
Well, I'm just curious. Certainly PCC does the same thing, our bylaws allow standing committees and ad hoc. But is there any expectation or, from a staffing perspective of how long these committees would be in effect you know, depending on what topic we may want to try and cover and how much it might entail in terms of multiple meetings or just one meeting, or, you know, I mean, is there a lot of flexibility that, you know, just the idea of it, you don't have to be constrained, like, yeah, we're seeing ad hoc committees meeting no more than twice, and, you know, no more than 3 councils involved, and no constraints.
No, I think it would really be like, if you're really impassioned to get something started, then I'm here to support that. So, if you want to do it and lead it and be the person who like starts that call, and I'll do it. And then when energy runs out, or the issue is solved, or there's no solution, but everybody has decided to move on, then, you know, it'll close at that point.
One thing that I would love to do, but you can tell me if this falls into this category, is to meet with the mayor, meet with the new mayor, have council representatives meet with the new mayor, and just kind of have an opportunity to bring up a variety of things that we collectively may be thinking about, and would love to chat with her early in the administrative timeframe. And it sounds like, Amanda, you might be, you know, actually the person that would help us do that.
Yeah,
Have that. set
That
up.
is something, when the Federation met with the mayor, that we brought up, wanting to facilitate regular meetings, and something I brought up to the assembly as well, is facilitating like regular meetings between the councils and both bodies of government. I think we can definitely have something of like citywide issues, and if we can get like a group together of, these are the things we want to talk about, then yeah, as a section of the Federation, of course, we can ask for a meeting and do that. I think coalescing around like an idea or a subject would probably help that, but yeah.
I appreciate that perspective, Kathy, and I had the opportunity to join the meeting with Mayor LaFrance last week. And one of the pieces of advice that I often share with individuals, you know, whether it's the mayor, members of the assembly, or others, that when there are large pieces of policy or big initiatives being rolled out, that just presenting to the FCC is not a substitute for actually engaging with the councils and the communities themselves. You know, everybody in here represents an area or a community council, but meeting just with you doesn't mean, hey, I met with the Trinity Community Council in this area, you know, has had their chance to have their input. You know, if I had my way, this is me speaking as me, I would prefer that those policymakers actually forego meeting with the FCC on some of these types of things and actually meet with the community council itself, particularly when when it's the most effective community councils. You know, if you had something that was related to the airport, I would expect that they would come to the community council in Turnigan. And then back to the question of which policy committees might be appropriate for ad hoc. Obviously, different parts of town care about different things, but and I know that my own personal passions play a role in this, but I think that housing and homelessness is probably one of the biggest issues touching all of our communities. And you know, some of our most populous community councils aren't here at the FCC meetings. I don't have a representative from like Northeast Community Council, for instance. I know that, you know, there's been work on like blighted property tear down recently. We had several structures in Mountain View that were torn down here in the last week or so. In Muldoon, there were quite a few that were torn down. You know, those kinds of things that's the real like neighborhood impact type thing. I guess if I had a suggestion for a type of committee that maybe was really impactful, that it would be something around that kind of topic. So thanks for letting me segue that.
Oh, sure. If I could respond, I guess, I mean, as a volunteer, president, and, you know, and delegate, which I love the position and really appreciate the council's, you know, efforts. But that's what I looked to the FCC, like, okay, but you should just call the mayor and schedule something. You know, it'd be easier to have, and there might be other councils that would be interested in it as well. Well, I'm not gonna throw out an idea because my head's spinning with lots of ideas. But I would prefer to be able to, as a volunteer, to rely on the supportive staffing and the executive board, if necessary, to see the executive board needing to be a part of that to help facilitate it so that his volunteer, any other council delegate volunteer, have to do it on their own.
Right.
That's my thinking of how these ad hoc committees that work is we get that support. We don't have to come up with it on our own and do it on our own. And until we know if there's any other interest from any other councils, you know, I mean, that's the unknown. If you're telling each council to just go do it yourself. And I don't disagree with your emphasis on what you just said.
And I will say, I think like we are beginning the conversation, and I think there'll be more opportunities to bring forward other ideas and sort of move that forward, but just in the interest of time, we are now 4 minutes behind, and we do have government updates, and we do have Barbara Jones from the Office of Mayor LaFrance, which is 2A on our agenda. Barbara, you're on mute, but if you want to provide us an update, we would be grateful to hear it.
Sure. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you to all of the delegates. There was a time when I was a substitute delegate to the Federation. And of course, I loved my time serving as an officer for my community council for many years. So it's a pleasure to be back in this different capacity. And so I've got 3 things that I'd like to report to you from Mayor LaFrance's office. And the first is that I think many of you know Mayor LaFrance's priorities, and those priorities are good government, safe streets and trails, and building our future. And I expect the second thing I'm going to tell you is that the mayor is committed to having a representative attend the Federation delegate meetings once a month, and we're going to provide you updates about the priorities and the successes. And also, we're here to listen and hear what the delegates, the community councils, and all of your members have to say to the mayor. And so I think that's 3. I got them in 2, but the third thing I wanted to tell you was that the mayor did meet with the executive board of the Federation in the last month. And we're going to set up a regular meeting, probably annually, to make sure that we're meeting with the Federation. And we're open to hearing. The mayor's had a number of meetings with different community council reps, and we're here to listen and hear your ideas and how to make these priorities and strategies a reality in Anchorage. So that's it from the mayor's office.
Can I ask a question? This is Amanda, that came up earlier. If there was a larger group of community council members outside of the executive committee, or do you think that the mayor would be available to meet with those individuals?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Kathy? No, I'm just letting, I asked your question for you.
Yeah, but it would not be set up through the staff. It would be up to the.
I can help set it up.
Okay.
I can help like actually facilitate it. We can figure out like who wants to participate, and I'm happy to facilitate it.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Anything, thank you, Barbara Jones, for your update. Any questions, concerns, thoughts, feelings from the delegates for Ms. Barbara Jones?
Barbara, thank you for taking the time to meet with the executive board and have the mayor meet with us. Appreciate that. That was a good way to start the administration. So thank you. It's been a long time since we've had that kind of relationship. Thank you.
I know you've had a full day, so thank you for joining us, and we will let you get home safely.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. And I will say they don't have a assigned person yet for the councils. But once that is decided, I will notice all of the presidents and delegates of that person. So for now, I was told that you can just send it to the, if you want a representative from the mayor's office at your meetings, you can just send it to the general mayoral email.
mayor@anchorageak.gov.
Yep, and they will get back to you.
All right, it looks as though we do not have a representative from the Anchorage Assembly or the Anchorage School Board, so we will just move down to the agenda to our very exciting Community Council Boundary Changes presentation with Tom Davis.
Hi, Tom Davis, Municipal Planning Department, and thank you for inviting me to report, update on the Community Council Boundaries Project, the Federation. I would like to do, three things that just provide an update and kind of a reminder background about this public process to update Community Council district boundaries as the process been on hiatus for a while. And secondly, to just give you a recap of that public process because so many people from the community councils were involved in it. And then thirdly, most importantly, next steps and what we would like from the community councils over the next couple months. And what we would like you to bring back, the message you to bring back to your community council from this meeting for action in September, October, November, December. The 10-year review of the Community Council Boundaries Project, the public process is resuming in September. It began in late 2022 with outreach to the Federation and the municipality with an online questionnaire and then the formation of a boundary advisory committee, which met and reviewed a series of boundary study areas that folks had identified. And it progressed through about 6 meetings of that boundary advisory committee, and they completed their review in July 2023. So in September, we'll be rolling out the results of that public process as a public hearing draft set of recommended community council district boundaries. In most areas, the proposed boundaries are the same as the existing ones. There's no changes. But in approximately 10 areas, the planning department and the boundary advisory committee recommended changing boundaries. When this is released in late September, there'll be a 2-month review period where we'll be asking for feedback from the community councils, and we'll go over that in a minute. But first of all, just the background for those of you who were not able to follow the process a year or two ago. Every 10 years, the municipality is required to review community council boundaries and reach out to the public and ask for comments about whether any boundaries need adjusting or changing, any districts are inactive, to ensure that the community council districts, your district areas, continue to reflect actual natural geographic neighborhood communities in your areas and provide representation for those areas. Community council districts are recognized in municipal code, and in fact, the maps or where the district boundaries are burned right into the municipal code in section 2.40, AMC 2.40. And only the assembly can change a recognized community council boundary. So when these public hearing draft recommendations come forward, for those of you who've been following the project or followed it in 2023, it was just a report and some maps. When you see it come out you will see an ordinance, that you have to change the code by ordinance. It'll be a proposed ordinance. Just a quick recap of the process in 2022, 2023. So the process began with an online questionnaire survey that went out to about 10,000 people in all the community councils. And between November 2022 and February 2023, we received 420 responses from folks, as well as responses from some community council boards and officers. And most people were satisfied with the existing boundaries. Stated about half said no changes should be made, and then another quarter weren't sure they didn't have any changes to suggest. But about 1/5 of the respondents identified areas where they requested there be a review of a district boundary somewhere. And we honored each and every request. Those responses became the basis for a set of about 36 boundary study areas. Areas we identified based on the comments for further evaluation. And these became boundary study areas. There's about 36 of them. A boundary study area didn't mean necessarily that anyone's going to recommend a change, but they were just for further evaluation. And that's what we did. With the help of the Federation and community councils and a set of 12 volunteers from leadership from within community councils or members of community councils, became the Boundary Advisory Committee. Boundary Advisory Committee was the main sounding board for this project in 2023. And that group, with the chair, with ex officio member Daryl Hess helping, they evaluated all of the boundary study areas over the course of 6 meetings that ended about a year ago, September 2020. We applied a set of boundary review criteria that are based on municipal code. And we reached out to presidents and officers in areas that were potentially affected. And the committee, we looked at alternative options for how to address each study area. And then came up with a set of recommendations. In most cases, recommendation was retain existing boundaries, no change. But in about 10 areas, the committee and the staff recommended changes. So you can find with this document, and we will email it out to you and all officers of community councils tomorrow. You can find the action summary. It's on the project webpage, and it's a quick summary of what the Boundary Advisory Committee recommended for each area of town. You can also find the boundary study areas and the maps for where these areas are as well. It's in a set of white papers on the project website, and they're mentioned in this document that we're sharing on the screen and that I passed around. So all this information will come out at the end of September as part of a public hearing draft set of materials to review. So you'll get this ordinance, you'll get the set of maps with beautiful new maps, recommended community council boundaries. And then next to that, you will receive, there will be a report that contains all the materials in these white papers and study area maps that tell you exactly where we studied and which areas are proposed to be transferred from one community council to another. So you have all that information at the end of September. And lastly, I'd like to go over the next steps. What we're doing internally in the planning department with the help of their GIS folks is to develop these new maps. The maps that are in code are they're like 23 years old. And so we're trying to create a better, more useful set of maps. And those maps will reflect the recommended boundaries. In September, beginning in September, we would appreciate if the community councils will basically do 5 things. First of all, and that they're kind of listed in the backside of that document we're sharing that I passed out. There's some set of bulletins, next steps. First of all, if you as delegates could encourage your executive board to introduce this topic on the agenda of your September general membership meeting and executive committee meeting in September. Draft will not yet be out, but we want you to be out in front of it and to be aware of it, because I know it takes time to absorb the fact that there's something for you to review and comment on. In the last week of September, and actually to assign a member or an officer who will follow this project. And you can ask questions of myself, Ryan Yell, manager of long range planning, questions. And identify the study area is of interest or affects your committee and council. Some person will follow this and bring this back to your council during the next coming months. The last week of September, please be on the watch for a public notice and emails to you and your executive committee compadres announcing that the public hearing draft materials are now out available. This will be planning and zoning case 2024-100. So when those are released, really, please do distribute to your people who would review it, comment on it. In October and November, the community councils will have 2 months to review it. And that means you really have like October to like let it sink in and deliberate a little bit. And then November, it's almost time to have, if the community council wishes to comment, to have some form of written comments. So that's request number 4, is to put this topic on your general membership meeting agendas for October and November. And position yourselves to be able to deliberate with your general membership in those months and to be able to develop and vote on and adopt a resolution from your community council. So we are looking for comments from the community council in the form of resolutions that your general membership will vote on and adopt. And that's really important in this case. And those resolutions would state your community council's position and your comments on the recommended boundaries. So in the event of your community council, if it is in a boundary study area, you will have me, the planning staff, approaching you, seeking comments in the form of a resolution. So during October and November, planning staff, Ryan, will be available if there's interest in a request to have us visit, but also working with the Community Council Center, provide any technical assistance in preparing a starter draft resolution. If your community council needs a little bit of help with that, just be a starter draft. We won't suggest what you're going to say, but how you can bring it across effectively. In December, the Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing, and we're going to aim at having the Planning and Zoning Commission hold it in the first week of December and continue it to the second week. The Planning and Zoning Commission only recommends the forward its recommendations to the Assembly. In the first quarter of 2025, the Assembly will hold its public hearing and take final action. You are central, community councils are central to this boundary issue. is in your wheelhouse. And so we're absolutely, in need of feedback from community council, support, concern. These are your boundaries, but it is also an excellent opportunity to inform your members and to learn about how community council districts are formed and why they are where they are and how we change those boundaries. So it's a great education opportunity. If you really want to nerd out on this, your friends at the Boundary Advisory Committee over 6 meetings, they did a very diligent, thorough job of reviewing boundary issues and debating big issues like the role of community councils and what are relevant factors in what decides an area should be in one district or another. So they're very informative minutes, and they're also available on the website. And I think all of us involved in that process were really educated. The outcome we hope for are stronger districts. Either they're updated or improved, or they're just reconfirmed. Better usable maps. And just a great public process that just strengthens and reconfirms the community councils. So tonight was all about process. I didn't get into where the changes are proposed. Even if your district isn't necessarily recommended to have changes, your community council district may have requested changes be made, but changes weren't made. Or during the process, planning and zoning commission or assembly member may seek changes in your area that weren't recommended. So it's really, it's not a bad idea for a community council to pay attention to this. And even if changes aren't being made, if you like where your boundaries are now, your community council wants to keep them, it doesn't hurt to say that. Even if there aren't changes in your area. So any questions? Thank you.
As part of the conversation about councils that are like significantly larger than other councils, is that something that came up as a concern throughout this process? Like Northeast Community Council has 22-ish people, whereas some councils just have a couple hundred.
Right, so there isn't any size criteria for what makes a community council too big or too small. And there are several very large community councils at Abbott Loop, Sand Lake, and
Jernigan, because we split the airport.
Oh.
well, population wise.
Oh,
Yeah,
population.
And Northeast, those are the big three.
Yeah.
And I would say they're all similar in population.
Uh-huh.
And it was in Northeast where, from the questionnaire survey, there was a lot of feedback about this community council is too large. We need to figure out how to either divide it or move parts of it to another district. And so the Boundary Advisory Committee looked into that, but what we found is that the size of community councils may be the appropriate size. Just varies by the type of area they're in. You have Basher here. Basher there is happy as clams. They have several hundred members. Sand Lake, you have 25,000 members. In the case of Northeast, what the Boundary Committee recommended was that the Assembly, as part of this process, at the end of this process, that the Assembly, in addition to adopting the ordinance, changing some boundaries, that they also adopt a resolution expressing support for dividing Northeast Community Council, north and south, if and when a group that wishes to form and operate a community council in its southern half comes forward and meets the criteria for being recognized.
So that would be something that would come from within the council to do the actual action. Beautiful, thank you.
Hey, Tom, 2 questions. One, do you have a copy of the action summary here? I know that a lot of councils are gonna be more interested to take this up it impacts them. And being able to share the summary might be one way to let them know how they might be impacted or not. And then I guess the other one was, do we have a list of population, like councils by population, like a breakdown of that? Maybe I missed that.
First of all, I have one copy here tonight in hard copy. The item we're sharing online and that you've received, a hard copy of, which I will email out tomorrow, has links to, where you can get to this, action summary. And the action summary, is a couple pages long but it's available on the project website.
But we can email it out. Yeah, I can include it in a follow-up email.
Yes, because I went to the project website and there's a lot of documents. But I think the one that everyone's gonna wanna know about is the project summary and the recommendations.
It's in bold.
It's like several have been bold, it's like way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Send it.
Any other questions from Tom, just in the interest of time?
Yeah, I do have a question. Can you just very briefly indicate which councils are affected by the the committee proposed recommendations? I mean, just so we know right off the bat, if we should, pay extra attention to this.
And we do
Or
intend to
not.
provide population data, just following up.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
'Cause I mean, or just tell me how many councils were potentially be affected, and that would answer the question. Just spiel them off.
The east end of university areas recommended a transfer to scenic, foothills. Todd's here, the, two-year community council, which was not meeting quorum, is recommended to be merged into a university area. The Spinard Beach Park recommended to be shared in some way
Yeah,
between its
familiar with that one.
It's friendly community councils, the south, area south of 15th Avenue between A and C streets is recommended to be transferred from Fairview to South Addition. There are 3 community councils south of Diamond Center that, their officers met, had a great meeting, and they reviewed 3 boundary study areas in their area, and the area of Taku Campbell south of Diamond Boulevard is recommended to transfer to Bayshore Plat, and then Old Seward Ocean View is recommended to take in the area of Bayshore Plat that's east of C Street, south of Minnesota.
Portage.
And Portage.
Last but not least, Portage, that making our largest community council even larger. Community council.
Okay, thank you, Tom, I appreciate it.
Portage is around 10 or 12 people.
Portage has not been meeting for some years. And I may have missed 1 or 2,
But
but
thank you.
again,
But not Jernigan, maybe more specifically for Kathy's concerns.
Well, yeah, Spinard and Jernigan proposed to jointly share, Spinard Beach,
This Bernard
Spinard
Beach.
Beach Park.
but I think it's very, and there's a portion of Rogers Park, eastern portion that's recommended to transfer to Airport Heights, but I would not just, if your community council hasn't just been mentioned, it's not a reason to not pay attention. There's issues between Mountain View and Airport Heights, there are issues between other areas. It's worth paying attention and stating what the community council's position is, even if your area wasn't proposed, Kevin, to change.
Can I just want to really focus on time because we do have school board, and then one of the most important parts of this agenda is to hear all the voices. And so Kathleen, I know you have a question, but
Well, it's not a question, it's maybe just a comment to help it. The other area as a part of the boundary study was areas that weren't included in any community council. As a part of that process, you did include in the community council, like the area that is part of Northway Mall, part of that area wasn't in, and it was moved into a council area. That was one of the other items of the study purposes.
Yeah, we wanted every area to be represented.
Right.
thank you so much. And moving on the agenda, we have school board member Andy Holloman joining us now, and we will let you give a brief 5-minute update starting at 7:38, and just to recognize that we're a little bit behind on our agenda, so we'll give you to 5 minutes.
Okay, I'll make it a 2-minute update.
Love it.
School has started, and if you drive a car on the streets of Anchorage, you probably noticed that. The first couple of weeks of school are particularly congested. A lot of parents like to drive their kids the first few days. We're hoping more of them will be on buses pretty soon. And of course, we have changed start times, so we have put some more traffic out during what were busy times before. So other than that, I'm happy to answer questions. We don't have too much going on, I think, that directly goes to the council. I'll also say this is my first meeting, so I'm not completely familiar with what happens, but yes.
Annie, I have a question. I was told in June that at the September school board meeting, you guys will be discussing the school board attendance at community council meetings. Is that still correct?
We do have a change in policy. We're going to try very hard to have a school board member at every community council meeting. We are handling the north end of town, Eagle River, Chugiak, a little differently. And it's a combination of things. One, we don't happen to have a board member that lives in that area. And two, they've been the most difficult to track. There are several out there that don't do blended meetings. And there have been times when it's been posted they were going to have a meeting and they didn't, or it wasn't posted they were going to have a meeting and they did. So it has been a little bit erratic. But we are stepping back a little bit. We actually had an effort to not allow board members to be in leadership positions if they weren't attending a certain percentage of meetings. But we also weren't really tracking it. So we're revising policy a little bit to fit reality, so to speak, but it is our hope to have a board member at every meeting every time.
So there have been a couple of councils that have passed resolutions in like commentary to that proposal change. Is there a chance for councils to weigh in on this, or has this already happened?
Let me make sure I know exactly where our policy changes are at, and I'll need to report back to you. I don't believe it has changed yet, that it still may be being worked in committee. But I will, I'll check on that in email and get back with you.
And I'll let the delegates know. But yeah, if there is a chance for feedback or like a public discussion of that policy change, I think we would want to know.
I do want to say, I don't think people will see a big change. I am going to try to track it and work a little more with board members that when they can't make a meeting, that we find someone to fill in. That was real common before COVID hit, and we were driving to everything. But then during COVID, there were times I had 3 different Zooms up at once, and we got through that. But we want to have a member at every meeting when we can. And so I think that's what you'll continue to see.
Great, thank you.
Great, we can.
Quick question. So at the beginning of the school year, you typically rotate and change who the representative for each. When would we find out?
I sent those out last week
Okay, see, I've had.
or earlier this week. They just came through and I just sent them. So
Thank you, Andy.
Any other questions? Cool, thank you,
Yep.
School Board Member Holloman.
Yeah, we'll see you next month.
President.
You just never know what people are going to do.
Yeah, apparently I'm not the board. Cool, thank you for being here. And moving down to the agenda to what I think is one of the most important part of the meeting is the council updates, the opportunity for our councils to talk to each other and share what you're working on. Do you want to go? Yeah, alphabetically. Add it, Lou.
Yes, we had a, cooperating with the native charter school, to pull weeds in Atkins Park. As you know, the school, elementary school was closed down, and then the native charter school came in with that building. There's a park behind it, the Atkins Park. It has the South Fork of Little Campbell Creek runs behind it. There are fish in there, and it's been overrun with bird cherry. So we went in and had one of our meetings. We went in and took a picnic and pulled bird cherry out of the park. It's going to take a lot more work, because there's got big bird cherry trees that we're gonna have taken out. We're going to be, adopting that park in conjunction with the school. So that's what we're working on. And then we've got, our elections are coming up in September.
Thank you. Airport Heights, let's see. We took a break over the summer. Nothing to report. Basher.
Basher doesn't have too much going on now. We did have a summer picnic and didn't do business on that. So we haven't had a meeting since May. That was the last regular council meeting. And that's it.
Cool. Bayshore Plat.
Eagle River is.
Thank you. Bear Valley, not here, not here. Sorry. Campbell Park, Kevin.
We just met on Thursday night, the 15th of August, and had good reports from Senator Forrest Dunbar and Council Member Rivera. Including in Rivera's report was the discussion on what may come up as a proposed sales tax for municipalities. So there's some discussion on that and the subjects of course, homelessness and some of the work on abatement of camps and what that protocol's been. And a little bit of discussion, and I mentioned earlier, kind of the ask, which we did answer here a little bit about upcoming training.
Cool. Thank you. Fairview James.
Hey, everybody. So we had our block party, our third annual block party on July 21st, right next to Elder Davis Elementary School. It was awesome, definitely the best turnout, and we had a ton of events. It was really family friendly. We had the National Guard came out, the rock climbing wall, basketball. We had an adult-sized bounce house. We had a full stage with music and food trucks and vendors and snow cone machines and face painting and balloons and the dunk tank, and the list goes on. So it was fantastic. Save the date next year, July 19th, Saturday. We're gonna keep doing it every year. And if you have kids, families, it was a blast. The kids had their own amusement park basically, and we had a lot of agencies associated with different things that Fairview has going on show up, including DOT was there and HDR was there, and of course the Fairview Community Council and Reconnecting Fairview Committee with Lindsay and NeighborWorks, and gosh, it was just a blast. And the sun came out again, and we had the air show we were competing with. They gave us a little show while we were breaking down. They were flying overhead, breaking the sound barrier, and it was unbelievable. We had a beer garden too, for those that, indulge. Lower consumption of alcohol this year. That's never a bad thing. But there was chalk on the sidewalk, and it was just, kids were they were toast. They were telling their parents, we gotta go home, or we're done. So, that was a blast. And then Reconnecting the Fairview Committee is, off to the races. We have an RFP out for the implementation of those federal grant funds, over $500,000. You guys are familiar with that, just to work with, and working kind of alongside with DOT with the highway project and everything. And they're working on their alternatives. We're trying not to duplicate, efforts and trying our best to work with them, even though, they have a more of, prerogative for transportation, i.e. the Seward Glen couplet, whereas to us, it's our neighborhood. So we're trying to, go the same direction, as you guys all know. So we're working on that, implementing those funds, camp abatements, A Street and Lions Park, a lot of public outreach on on those, a lot of, community council outreach on the negative impacts there. And of course, other communities are now feeling a lot of those as well, like Midtown. They came out of the housing homelessness today in force. And it's just interesting to hear a more affluent part of town, whereas Fairview's felt it for 40 years. And, we're just hoping that, we can continue to, not see those impacts, push back into Fairview. And then on another note, there is a District 1 leadership meeting going on, that some of you know about, and that's kind of a parallel meeting to some of the community council stuff. So some of the community council leaders in District 1 getting together, talking about priorities, and Amanda knows all about that. And that's been really, really good to get together with District 1 people and talk about some of the common goals. And we're gonna be meeting a second time this month to discuss common priorities and just see what we can get moving, talking with the new administration. And downtown's a big part of, Anchorage and Alaska, and how we make money, and, high tax district. And right now we're sort of, we're hoping to improve and recover from what's happened more recently. And so maybe we can, bolster some tourism and things that make us money so that we can have money to do things with, because we need money first. So, that's all I've got right now. Thanks.
And just important to note that the Fairview Lions Park was abated before the Central Lutheran, and the sort of like recognizing how close that was to Fairview Elementary, and to sort of
It was
also.
abated prior, and there was actually a pre-abatement even before they abated it. It was the second time, because I was over there talking to mechanics, Dean over there, Dean's Automotive, and there were already signs up.
Yeah.
On the adjacent green strip, and then the other pop-up across from Swicker came up, and then that was abated, correct, prior to the A Street. And then, there is in our backyard program, which is gonna be 6 small houses, and, the Fairview Community Council we've written the executive board wrote a letter of non-objection to that program, as long as it doesn't have any impacts to the community, which is a huge caveat. So again, it's great to see small programs like this. Obviously, Fairview isn't the greatest place to do it, start, but it's, in the past, we've heard a lot of churches wanted to help, and, hopefully they can with this new administration, some collaboration, and what she was kind of talking about, which is, working together.
Gonna take us off.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't do it all.
Hopefully.
Huffman O'Malley, Jason?
Yeah, we had our first meeting coming off the summer break. Same issue, we had Walter Featherly present on, Project Anchorage, and vociferous and lengthy conversations. That's really all, that was the big item for us coming back off summer break. I'm sure there's more to come. One thing is, you had mentioned perhaps an ad hoc housing community. If that is something people are interested in, I would like to join.
Brad, I'd love to hear it. Cool. Okay. Who's leading it?
Bob French from Government Hill wanted to say that, what's that?
I will say that you had all these letters up there that were all jumbled together, and I didn't know that you were still on that. So thank you for speaking up.
Well, I heard that I got jumped over. So anyway, we are going to have our first meeting for the fall in September. This summer, we've been working, trying to figure out how to get some of the grants that we have for abating some bird cherries and doing some wayfinding and signage around Government Hill. Trying to figure out how to get those grants administered, because the FCC said that we were not going to be able to administer them anymore. So looks like that's going to get sorted out, but I think we kind of lost the summer's activities here. Anyway, next meeting is on September. Thanks.
Hey, Bob, just to flag for you, we have put together the fiscal policy, and I think that there is opportunities, and the FCC really wants to support community councils in that way. And so you should get with Ari, or your community council should get with Ari on how we can make that happen. Because I think we want to have a program that supports the community councils, but also protects the 501c3 status of our organization. So Ari will follow up with you, or you can follow up with her.
I know that Jody, our president, has been coordinating with Ari on that. So I think we hopefully have it figured out.
Yeah. Want to say that you think that there's solutions available.
I'm gonna jump, oh, sorry. I was gonna jump in as another G.
Oh, no, I missed that one too.
No respect for G.
Oh, Mike.
I've cut this down to a shortish list of just 7 things.
Love
But I'll be quick. We have a couple of issues with, or a couple of utility issues going on at the moment. One is, Chugach has a policy, has a program, 2% of their income revenue goes to undergrounding power lines. And our town centre area, we discovered the power lines are actually outside the easement, so you have this weird contradiction. If you meet the separation requirements of Chugach asked for, you can't meet land use code because we have kind of maximum setbacks as well, and they end up overlapping. So we're going to try and encourage Chugach to put undergrounding and power lines in our town square centre on their capital project. We also discovered there's an opportunity for advocating potentially getting funding from federal funding for waterline work. So we're going to advocate for waterline extension to the other part of the we have the ever-present issues around short-term rentals and regulations we're pushing forward. There's a couple of community members interested in pushing for a historical district in the old park Girdwood. So we're looking at discovering that process. Tom's helping us there. The comprehensive plan rewrite has gone through planning and zoning, and now it's coming up to the assembly. So that's gained a lot of interest, a lot of support. People want to know how to support it. We had some questions about a couple of levies in the community. About one of them is eroding quite aggressively, and nobody seems to know how these are managed and how they're maintained. So we've been working on that. And finally, it's the issue of sales tax. We had a presentation a couple of months ago, and there's lots of interest and opinions in the community about how that affects both Girdwood generally and people across Anchorage, more Girdwood specifically, and people across Anchorage more generally.
Thank you. Apologies.
No respect.
All the respect. Mountain View.
Mountain View.
Ari's gonna help me from here on out. It's been a full day.
We had our Mountain View Street Fair on July 27th. I don't think we had an adult-sized bounce house. I didn't know it was an option.
I know.
$200, I was $150. No adults
We'd
ever.
love to do a joint street fair.
That'd be so rad.
We did pass a resolution recently regarding the ASD policy. It was kind of spontaneous. The council voted to support having continued attendance of ASD representatives as a mandatory thing. There was some concern about the Boys and Girls Club not having enough funding to do busing of students from the Boys and Girls Club to Tyson Elementary and other places like that. My understanding is that they don't do morning programming anymore, like at Woodland Park. And so a lot of the children can't walk between Tyson and the Boys and Girls Club in Mountain View. And so there's some concern about the ability of them to continue to provide services for a lot of the neighborhood's children. This has been brought up for the last 3 or 4 months, and I don't know what the solution will be. And then lastly, Mike mentioned the undergrounding issue. We're very much aware, MLMP, before they were merged into Chugach, they had a 5-year plan that they would put out from time to time. And as a rental community, all the renters would pay their, 2% monthly surcharge for undergrounding. And if you read the 5-year plan, it says the plan for Mountain View to do undergrounding is by the year 2200.
Oh, cool.
So our great-grandchildren's grandchildren, they have. It's in the 5-year plan. And which we repeatedly brought up to Chugach. There is no undergrounding in that community, which is one of Anchorage's oldest. So, good luck getting it.
Old Seward. Online.
Nothing new for us. Next meeting is September 18th. Well, that's it.
Thanks for being here. Kathleen.
Rush and Jack had their cleanup this spring, and we were off for the summer. We don't meet again till September. That's it.
Cool. Sand Lake.
I was absent for the June meeting because of summer school, but I will briefly run over it. There was nothing over the summer for the meeting, but in the June meeting minutes, the main things were Kincaid soccer field improvements. There was a presentation jointly with the Parks and Rec about helping maintain from erosion, as well as the Kincaid Stadium storage that Nordic Skiing Association is building one. The motion was supported by the Sand Lake Community Council. There's gonna be some work on a Chugach electrical substation on Raspberry for support for the airport, because there needs to be more energy demands for it. There's talk of the snow removal plot by Sand Lake Road in Sand Lake about how it will be used and for the winter, and that's where snow dumping. And the CIP survey will take up ratification by September. They had all their talks mostly about the CIP that was due by June 15th at that meeting. And the next meeting will be September 9th.
Can I have a motion to extend the meeting for 7 minutes?
Extend by 7 minutes.
Second.
Cool. Todd with Tudor, thanks for the update, Evan.
Well, we are a insulated and insular, community council. And I've lived in my house there for 40 years, and I've been involved with community council off and on for most of that time. We've got two things that, have been, controversial over the last year or so, and that is, Golden Lion being converted into a housing facility. And that seems to have settled itself out pretty well. I haven't heard of any complaints lately. It looks pretty good down there as far as people, wandering around or trash being outside the building. And then we've got the Stewart Highway overpass 36, which is a big concern for especially the people in Geneva Wood subdivision, which has a boundary there. The last I've heard, it's like 8 to 10 years out, if it even happens. So we're not worried about it at this point.
It's a fast track on federal terms.
Yeah, well, they didn't shove it down our throat this time, so, like they did with the last iteration of that. So, I'm actually kind of excited about joining with, university area if they'll have us. I think that, at first I didn't like the idea because we've got our own little thing going over there, but not very many people involved. But anyway, I think it will be a good match, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'll give you a little thumbs up. It was cute.
Well, Al gave me the information. It looks like they may lose part of theirs to another community council. We'll take that place, and so it won't be overgrown.
Yeah, that's cool.
Plus, they meet at the university, which both of us have pretty good
Yeah, that's
access to,
cool.
so.
Kathy, thanks for the update, Todd.
Thank you. Let's see. Well, first of all, thank you, Tom, and the planning department for all of the work done on the multiple reiterations of amending code and so forth. And the board spent many, many hours attending multiple public hearings and late spring, early summer, testifying before the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Assembly on multiple public hearings, and ordinances. And so, we took our guidance from the planning department. So thank you, Tom. And I will need to check if our North Rim bank account for Jernigan is using the EIN for FCC. I'm not sure, because that was set up a long time ago. So I'll be in touch when I try to find out more about that. One thing that not Jernigan council specifically, but something that I am going to discuss with the board when we meet and at our September meeting is the really sabotage of landscaped islands in West Northern Lights. Those were put in the mid-80s. $500,000 was spent on landscaping to put all of that in when the road was widened. And I have never seen anything like it in all these decades that I've lived here, where some entity came in and just massacred vegetation cutting back on one of the islands, and on the other one where it had birch trees and then also undergrowth landscaping, lilac bushes, false spirea, et cetera. They completely removed it. And my husband Dan and I donated 35 trees 9 years ago to celebrate our 35th anniversary in the Tongan area. And some of the birch trees that were in that island where they removed all the vegetation underneath. One is broken, one is slanted, the other one has got a branch. It was very upsetting. So I called the ombudsman office. I've been transferred to code enforcement and I still haven't heard anything. So, that means I want to know what entity was responsible for that and remediation, because it's devastating. To have that happen decades later, it was shocking. Also, with regard to airport stuff, we've been very busy as a board and land use committee meeting, connected with the replacement or relocation of the airport control tower, which also necessitates the relocation of Charlie General Aviation parking lot. And, they'll have to relocate the parking area north of Echo Parking and realign Lake Hood Drive off of Northern Lights. And so we have participated heavily at the
Thanks for being here.
environmental assessment phase and lease permit comment deadline to FAA is coming up in September, and also the core wetland fill permit is coming up in September. Comments due, so we're continuing to spend a massive amount of time on that. And we are looking for an update soon on the Fish Creek Trail connection between Northern Lights and the Coastal Trail, because we've heard there's some pretty major legal issues with the preferred route that the project team selected. So we're gonna try and find out more information about that. So thank you.
Yep, thank you so much. Last, Al, but not least by any means.
Yeah, you're on.
Al, you got an update for us?
Oh, university?
We're gonna
Yeah,
go
we
reverse
last-
order this time, so you'll be first.
We last met in May, and next meeting is September 7th. In June, we were the first community council to submit our CIP, so that was a great accomplishment. And during the summer, we had the Parks and Recreation Youth Corps refurbish our trail at Marion and Wesleyan Drive, and the community over here just loves it. They did a fantastic job, so a kudos to them about that. So that's about it for us then.
Cool. Thanks, Al. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Before we officially adjourn, just a thank you to Amanda, and congratulations for going first for the new position. Thanks for hanging in there with us on the dual status a little bit. And,
Thought I
I
could make it
appreciate
work.
everything that you've done, because this goes back to this last year and change of all the stuff you've done. I did say kudos.
Yeah. We gotta hurry. We're doing it.